told me about your band, your first band. I understand it was J. Walter Negro.
Oh wow, you're talking about that first.
That was your first band.
That wasn't my first band, but that was the first band where I was signed.
Right, signed, your first professional project.
Yeah, more or less, yeah. Shit. Well, how that started out. Actually, what happened was I was about 17, and I was playing with another cat who was in the band who was like, all those dudes are like 6 years older than me, and I was playing in his band. His name was Leonard Seeley, really talented cat, and then somehow another talented cat who was a bass player named Louis Watterson, aka Skip, I think he was a bass player before that, but something happened. So I just happened to come in at the time they got signed. So it's funny because all the history of the band, well, whatever photos there are, and maybe some video footage, I might have been too young, but that was the time the band got signed. But I'm not in any of those photos. However, I'm on the records. In the recording, or the record.
Right, that's what matters.
Yeah, I guess so. But all those cats are bad. So.
Was it a record or was it an EP or
it was at those times during those days. Just the 12-inch single. So
it was the single.
So yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, so
Shoot the Pump, right?
Shoot the Pump. Yeah, well, actually, to me, I mean, sorry, Fred Miller, but the way it was before was really tight because Pablo's vision was more earthy, but the producer came and put the beat on and whatever. But and there was another track that we did, two versions. This song called Wild Nero Fiddles, and the first, well not the first, but one of the versions was produced by this cat who was a manager of the Yardbirds, or the Birds, I can't remember the name, Giorgio Gomelski, and who's also associated with Jean-Michel Basquiat, because that was the whole scene, the graffiti art scene. Anyway, his version, that shit was bad. It's lost in the CBS vault, but hopefully it'll pop up one day. It's like a reggae earthy downtown thing. But yeah, that was my first, like I said, first reggae. Well, one of my first recordings.
The single was kind of a hit.
It was kind of a hit. It was kind of a hit, and I think it made some noise in Europe, because in England.
Right, it was
but now it's like classic disco funk, which is kind of funny when you think about it.
Well, it was mixture, right? Funky, disco.
Yeah, it was like that whole era, like hip hop, and like the dawn of hip hop, or a little bit after. The thing about that band that was really cool, it was that everybody could play. So in a way, it was kind of the roots before the roots. The only, unfortunately for me, and I think for a couple of people in the band, the lead singer, who was like a genius artist.
He was a graffiti artist.
He's a graffiti artist and a very smart cat. And he didn't really take rap as seriously as he should have, because I think that his flow would have been more serious. But in a way, it was kind of cool because he didn't give a fuck. It was kind of like, I can do this, standing on my head. But lyrically, he was so brilliant, and he was a talented artist, and one of the major underground artists at that time, associated with like Future 2000, really famous cat, and a lot of that was when graffiti was really kind of like, it was like the next level.
I understand that your next musical project was in the 90s already, right? Maggie's Dream, or
yeah, that was the next move. That was the next. Yeah, that was like while I was doing the scene,
right?
And I was playing with this band called. I'm not going to mention the band, but I was doing the scene in the 80s, and then staying in the funk and jamming a little bit with the cats who went on to become more serious jazz funk kind of guys like Ben Porowski and Adam Rogers and those type of heavy dudes, really great players. Yes. I'm gonna get a beer now. And at the time, two of the guys and I went to school together around the same time. I didn't really start hanging out with them a lot until later, and like maybe after 18. But Danny Palomo and Raf Hernandez, they went to school together. They were tight, and they wrote a lot of songs together. And then I was acquainted with them because the streets, everybody, you go from every 10 blocks, and also went to junior high school. So just trying to think, man. So what happened was one day Raph saw me play with Tony in a band that I didn't mention, and he liked the rhythm section. And me and Tony and I played a lot of gigs together, and we just had a good chemistry together. And then somehow I went to Raph's house and I heard the songs, and I dug where it was coming from. And also we were all into Sly, and especially me. Is that on? Is this thing on? And everybody was into Sly. I mean, it was just like a way of life in a lot of ways, And I dug it, and so I took it to Josh Deutsch, who was a friend of mine, who was in the band. Okay, the band was Blind Days. And I took it to him, and then one thing led to another, and hooked up with Draco before he was Draco. Maggie's Dream was, the deal. What happened was, I'm going to keep it real. Raph had a couple of songs, and Lenny Kravitz was a friend of theirs, whom they had met.
Songs, right?
He sang like 2 songs.
Oh, okay.
He sang like actually 3 songs, and we did demo. And he just did it as a favor, and we paid him, a little bit of money, and then they heard the songs with him on it.
Well, he wasn't that famous at the time.
Right, he wasn't famous at all. Well, he was famous in LA in his world, but he wasn't a famous guy. Yeah, he was friends with them, but that was before anybody was doing anything. And Mariah Carey was also around at the same time, who was like a coke check girl in the restaurant. So all these people who were around building their careers, and then the cat sent me to Lenny's house or apartment to kind of talk to him, to try to convince him to be in the band, but he had played me the tracks to his shit, and which was pretty cool. And we were, listening to some shit, and then we had plans. Evidently, the shit worked. And so a year went by, and then I got a hold of another cat, someone told me about, named Jeffrey Gaines. I don't know if you know him.
I'm not sure.
No, but Jeffrey Gaines is a great singer. Different vibe, but singer-songwriter, black dude from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Just crazy talent. And one of those cats that walks in the studio, and his demo was like one take, and he went on to make a lot of noise. When you go home, you can do some research on him, and different direction, but but the same kind of gift, And he got signed and did his own thing. And then a friend of mine, Lisa Jensen, I knew from working with the Prince organization, and she was the manager for this singer who was great, Jill Jones, who was with Prince. She recommended Draco, Rob, and so we went to Los Angeles. The only problem with Maggie's Dream, which I believe is the reason why it didn't really happen in terms of what's the word? It wasn't organic in the sense that we weren't a band that played the scene like most bands do, and the songs were written, and everybody was a good enough musician, and when we went into the studio, a lot of the songs we had to kind of produce in the studio. So I think that was probably a reason why the band didn't last, because we didn't really go through the trenches as a band. Maybe Tony and I did, the drummer and I, Tony James and I, and they did their own thing, but we didn't suffer like bands should suffer, and we didn't play a lot of games live, if any. So
you went on tour with Fishbone, is that possible?
Yeah, we went on tour with Fishbone, and Faith No More, and we had the same manager. and also they had shit. My God, Rage Against the Machine. They had Rage Against the Machine, and then something happened, and they went with.
And the band split up. Just
what, Maggie's Dream?
Yeah, Maggie's Dream was.
Yeah, Maggie's Dream split up. I can go into why, but it just did, and then Rob went his own way as well, and so we finished a record that was never released. And then at that point, there was friction in the band. First, the second record's never, it was never. Also, to me, I mean, to be honest with you, there were some great tracks on the record, but it wasn't really. I don't think it was really as good as the first record for a lot of reasons. It sounded a little better, whatever, but but there were so many things going on that I don't know. Something was lacking. I can't put my finger on it, but the tracks are pretty cool. And then Tony left the band, and another friend of mine named Zach Alford played drums on that second record that was never released. And that was mixed by Andy Wallace, who mixed the first record, who produced Jeff Buckley.
Yeah. Andy Wallace, he's the one that mixed Nevermind by Nirvana.
And Nevermind, right, he had Nevermind, and I think he did some work on Pro Jam. And another guy who mixed the second record along with Andy Wallace was a guy named Tim Palmer, who worked with Robert Palmer on Now and Then. He was a young genius kind of guy. But maybe one day before we're dead, maybe a record will be re-released or whatever.
I understand that after Maggie's Dream, you did a lot of, you worked for a lot of artists as well. Billy Joel, for example.
I did play on a couple of Billy Joel cuts, and that was a different thing.
Right.
And I played on two singles.
Tour with him? Or?
No. I think I was going to, but there were some issues. In a way, it's probably better that I didn't, even though the money would have been great and the exposure would have been great, but that wasn't my scene, I mean, that really wasn't, but how I saw myself going about my life musically. But it would have been good, from a financial standpoint.
Well, what brought you to Argentina then?
Oh wow. Well, I tell you, I was on MySpace, man, and I was just going through MySpace, and I was looking up Andrea Alvarez, and because we knew each other, and we were great friends, and we kind of dated, but we were really close friends.
That was in the 80s?
That was in 85, yeah, you saw it
I saw some pictures.
Yeah, we were like 20, 26, 25. And I just like, I wonder how Andrea was doing. I was like, damn, what's Andrea? So I was looking for her, and somehow I came across her music on MySpace. And I want Argentina to hear this. I heard the record, I, and I was just like, what? That's Andrea? That shit was bad. I saw the video, I'm like, shit, that shit is out of control. And so I said, Andrea, I contacted her on MySpace, and then she contacted me, and evidently she was looking for me a year before. And I don't know, it just happened. So then,
when was that?
That was 2008, I think, maybe 2009, sometime around there. And then for like a year, we were kind of keeping in contact, and then I got the camera for the computer, and then we discovered Skype. So we went from like contacting through MySpace, through chatting on Gmail, and then got a camera, and then we did Skype. And once Skype happened, then it was really easy to kind of fall in love again and get into that. So she suggested I come out here.
Have you ever been to Argentina?
I've never been here. No, I've been to Brazil and Colombia, but I've never been here. But I came here because to be with her, and I needed to get out of New York.
Do you think that your music will be more appreciated here than in the U.S.?
My music?
Yes.
My personal music?
Yeah, your personal music, or what you're doing right now, or...
I think, to be honest with you, I think Andrea's music, because I've been doing most of her stuff.
Right.
I think her music would be more appreciated in the U.S. To be honest with you.
Yeah, her music.
Yeah, I don't think they're ready for her. I don't think they've been ready for Andrea for a while. My music. I mean, it's a strange thing because I went through this period where I was writing some music for a independent film, and I was trying to get back into the jazz thing. So I was composing a lot of that type of music for the film. So my music is so, I mean, I go in so many different directions, so I was getting into that. I was trying to touch base with my past and my father, who's a jazz musician, and just get into that and the hip-hop thing and all that shit. But we don't know what my music is, but when I write rock music, it's rock. When I write a jazz tune, hopefully it's a jazz thing. It's never fake, or it's never...
So, what was your goal to ever become like a mainstream artist, or...?
Well, I guess the goal was to be able to pay for the cab no matter what. That's really the goal, because really, I think real artists or real people who like music, who love music, I mean, all the perks that come with success or moderate success, those are obvious, but you just want to be able to wake up and do what you do without having to worry about other stupid shit. Bill, you want to be able to keep the cable on so you can do your shit, right? And for me, that's ultimately what it's about. And the perks that come with music, especially for someone like me, I like to travel. So, you can get out of town for a month or two. Sometimes a tour for a year is kind of crazy, but I guess I wouldn't turn it down if I got one. So you go to Paris in England for a few weeks, or you go to wherever. And so, as long as you're moving, and you can buy your favorite sneakers and wear your favorite T-shirt, then you're cool. That's ultimately what most musicians want to do, And I think that it would be stupid and fake to say that you don't want to be recognized. I don't believe that I don't think anyone doesn't want to be recognized. But
it's about recognition.
It's about recognition. Yeah, right. So you want to be recognized for what you do, but not necessarily be mobbed by tons of girls. At least now. I mean, I don't care about that shit. I mean, back then it was kind of nice.
Yeah, of course.
There's always a perk,
So have you ever thought about becoming a solo artist?
Yeah, I did actually. And then I heard D'Angelo, and then that was over. I mean, once I heard what I mean is, I heard D'Angelo, and I thought, oh shit, okay, I can do the poor man's version with just the music, but he was such a ridiculous singer on top of everything else and also it was hard for me to kind of put that together. There's still a chance that I could do that, but I just like to play.
Right.
And to be a singer, I mean, to me,
you don't like singing.
I love to sing, but you gotta either be gifted or you gotta really practice if you have a little bit of talent to get better at it. And I just don't think that my life allowed that, or the drama. So. But it was all you keep the playing in and the keyboard stuff in, and so I like to write. But I think if you can sing and you sing a lot and you have a voice and you go into the studio, anything can happen.
Well, let me ask you now, what's your opinion on the MP3 and the digital revolution that happened on the last decade?
MP3, it's funny, man. I think for me, I think it's cool because I think people get so caught up in old school. I think the only thing that should be old school is the guitar and the amp. And you should be able to get your tone and do all that shit, play live. But if you're alone and then you think old school and you can kind of adapt it to the new school thing, then that's really cool. Because then you can keep up with technology and then you can stay creative. You have to balance that. I still never got really good enough in technology to do it. But when I was writing the music for that movie, I was learning everything at the same time.
Don't you think that the computers lowered the standard on music? The quality standards in music.
You mean like the sounds and everything?
Everything in general.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah. I think that.
I'm not talking about the quality of the sound itself, but
the quality of the
records, songs, the music itself.
Well, no. Well, I mean, I think if you have an old school brain and you don't get too caught up into the technology, then I think that old school limitations can make the new school recordings really interesting. It's when you're so new school, you lose perspective on everything. You start using plugins that are great. If you don't have a studio and that's the choice you have, then it's great.
What are your all-time influences?
Oh, wow, influences all time. Wow. Well, I would have to say my dad, because I grew up in a time was a jazz cat, and I saw a lot of shit, like a lot. And I'm older. How old are you?
I'm 29.
Oh shit. Oh damn, you look young, bro. Shit. Wow. Must be the beer. But I saw a lot of shit. I saw a lot of the bebop shit, the post bebop shit, the dark shit, the lonely club shit. And then the second influence, at least I would like to think, is like Sly and Sly and the Family Stone, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, basically, for me, I think I might have even patterned my way of playing after Verdine White, because I was just so into what he was doing. And then when I started getting into fusion a little bit, Stanley Clarke, for a minute, but those are probably the influences. And then, at 16, I was started playing rock, really getting into rock, like 15, 16.
What are your, rock influences?
Well, shit. Let me put it this way. The first time I was really introduced to rock was by this Puerto Rican dude named Fernando. Fernando was this Puerto Rican dude. He's half Puerto Rican and half gringo. We grew up in Brooklyn, but then he moved to the projects. Right. So he still had the gringo side, the white side, if you will. And he was heavily into that. And another friend of his best friend was Jesus Perez, who was completely Boricua and grew up with family and had the whole shit, the whole thing. Fernando was his parents died by the time I met him, and he was a little older, he's about 6 years older. So he introduced me to the Allman Brothers, and also he was really into sound. He was like one of those kind of cats. So I heard like Rush, Tom Sawyer, and Eddie Van Halen, the first Van Halen record, and Gary Moore, and all that kind of shit. So that was my first introduction into the rock thing. That was my first phase. And then there's another dude named Nelson Onfre, who was a Puerto Rican dude. A lot of Puerto Ricans like rock. A lot of Puerto Ricans and black dudes like rock in the hood. And Nelson was like a kick-ass rock drummer. He was a little older, and I played with him a few times. And Nelson really was into the sound. He does photography now. Nelson had he was blasting some Gary Moore, and he had his shit was like high definition before it was high definition. So he was really into that shit. So there was that phase. And then I got into the 80s thing. And Bowie a little bit, because my friend Sterling Campbell was into Bowie, and the Blind Dates with Josh Joyce. They were into that was like the 80s vibe, Till Tuesday and all that shit.
I mean, going back to the present time, are you planning on releasing the records now with Andrea?
I'm probably going to do something, definitely with Andrea for sure. She's going through some things that she has to deal with some family things, which is kind of holding things up a little bit, which is important. But we did do a track that she wrote called Se Pudre Todo, which is kind of like old school power trio, kind of Janis meets I don't know. Sometimes she sounds like Buddy Miles, man. So it's like Janis meets Zeppelin meets Hendrix. We put the single out. We're preparing the single. She's preparing a video for it because she wanted to get something out because we need to have.
Is she trying to get to reach a mainstream audience?
Who, Andrea?
Andrea, do you think that she's? Because I understand that her music. She's keeping the music a little underground now. I mean, what was she always like that?
I mean, Andrea. If I could speak for Andrea in a way, because Andrea is underground, in a way, not because she wants to be, it's just because the people can't handle it. I'm sorry. And so, they got some cool ass bands, I've seen some great music, but in terms of Andrea's music, I think it scares people because the shit is too, Andrea knows what's going on, really. And I think that her being a woman and being a strong woman and being a strong, tiny woman, I think people aren't ready for it. I don't think they'll ever really be ready for it. And, she doesn't, I think that maybe I'm as outspoken as she is. And what she won't say, I will say. So I think that she's ahead of the game. And she's in the wrong country that she loves. And I think that it's too bad that the people don't really see that because they're interested in other things.
I was about to ask you about Argentinian bands. What bands do you like from Argentina?
Well, I like bands like I saw Divididos, and I also saw some footage of Andrea playing with Divididos a little bit, and bass player's great. Mojo's great. Seems like a great dude. It's cool shit. It's a different thing, and also they're so established. And they got established early, like 15 years ago, right? So their shit is cool. There's nothing bad you can say about it. Also, they don't give a shit because they can play a show whenever they want, and a zillion people come to see them. Carajo is another band that I think is really cool. I don't know if these bands are like, they're not, you can't put Andrea in the same category musically, but you can put them in the same level this way, And there's another band that I really like that me and Andrea worked with that I'm not promoting, Tal Banda. That's a really cool band. Power trio guys, and great guitar player, solid drumming, great bass playing, just cool. And again, it might be a little too. What they push here in the commercial, on the radio, and the video, and what is happening are two different things. So I don't know. Maybe that's just the way the way the Argentino thinks now in terms of the commercial. Maybe people like you with the vibe, maybe they might not let you in the door. You know what I'm saying? That's just my observation. I don't really know much about what's going on except Andrea's shit is probably the best shit out there, and people don't seem to understand that. And I'm just keeping that real. But there's some cool shit out there, and I work with in a different way, but on the same level, like maybe a little, a different school like Coleman, Richard Coleman. It's a different thing, talented guys.
Are you planning on staying here in Argentina in a permanent way, or are you?
I've been here 3 years, so unless me and Andrea break up and get into a big fight.
So you like it in here, basically?
Well, I love Andrea.
Well,
and I like it here.
You like the country, you like the city.
I like the city. I like the people. I dig it, but probably Andrea makes it more interesting. It's the music, the relationship, and everything. So I like Argentina. I like Buenos Aires. I've been to Mar del Plata and Venado Tuerto, which is a whole different vibe.
Right, yeah.
So I don't really know much about, and it's a big ass country, man. It's like it takes me 10 minutes just to get from here to the studio, bro. So the place is huge. It's like all the boroughs together, not separated by water. But yeah, it reminds me of New York in a way, because of the pace and the trains and downtown. And I like it. I had to get used to it. My Spanish is just.
Well, is there or was there a particular artist that you would have loved to work with?
Shit, yeah. I mean, I would love to work with Sly, just on that level, which I know is never going to happen, because, you know, who knows. I love the Pretenders, like Chrissy Hyde. I think that vibe is really cool.
Great singer.
Great singer, cool. So I always wanted to work with them. And they're like a, you know, I love Soundgarden. Even though that's never going to happen because those cats are so tight. So there's a few people that I would love to play with Rage Against the Machine. And if that, you know, before everybody's too old. There are people that I know, especially now, that I know that I would probably really have a great time playing with. But there's so many people that I would love to play with. But Sly is definitely one of them. And you know, be careful what you wish for, because you never know. You know, who knows? You know, I mean, you never know.